Looking back today, it's hard to imagine the profound passion that President Eisenhower expressed in his praise for Walter Elias Disney. It was recently the subject of a New York Times article that heavily influenced today's video. You see, Disney wasn't merely a storyteller. He was a myth maker, much like J.R.R. Tolkien or Isaac Asimov. They were architects of tales that transcended time, from the inception of Mickey Mouse to the grandeur of Disneyland. Disney in every way reflected and presented a collective understanding that transcends borders, timelines, generations, and oftentimes even a barrier of language. So let's talk about Disney storytelling now. Seemingly abandoned by Bob Iger, Disney gave up, I guess, starting around 2014. Not everywhere, not all at the same time, but we're going to dive deeper into the company's struggle to maintain some cultural relevance. Here we go. Now, before we get started, don't forget, if you're enjoying this video, remember to hit that like button down below to support more content like this and in the future so that, well, you might actually see it, because it doesn't seem like the notification bell works all the time. Now, back to it. Walt was a master storyteller. Many folks in his employ recount all his telling of tales. He spun yarns about folk heroes, princes, princesses, embedding them into optimistic American ethos. Believe in yourself, don't be afraid to dream, all of these wonderful, innovative ideas. These narratives weren't just, they were guidebooks for generations, echoing an idealistic view of the world post-war. And they inspired many to invent and look at the greater possibilities around them. They spoke directly to morality and ethics, establishing what was good for all of society. And in recent years, it's now impossible to ignore all of the radical activism that's been shoved into stories where quality, thoughtful storytelling once existed. It's also easy to spot the fractures forming around the bedrock of a family company steeped in a healthy dose of Americana and obviously American exceptionalism. Fast forward to today, the once monolithic Disney brand is facing some headwinds in a cultural storm that it could have and should have avoided entirely. Instead of becoming embroiled within controversies, sparking ideological battles, and ultimately revealing the sheer depth of corruption that has reached as far as some alleged criminal acts conducted by their own, well, it shouldn't have been their own, but a municipality that was supposed to rein them in a bit. Let's just step back and review what's happened in the last few years after Walt's passing in 1966. The evolution of Disney's narrative is astounding, and we're just scratching the surface as I kind of walk you through all of this. You see, because as of the 80s and 90s, as those progressed during my lifetime, we witnessed Disney's animation golden age, a rebirth, an era of Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, and of course Aladdin. And this era was created out of a need for change from the executive level downward. The new golden age was brought forth by Michael Eisner after a near disaster of having Disney fall into hands of foreign ownership. Even if it is Oriental Land Company, it still would have been a disaster. Then, at the dawn of the 21st century, a new wave was ushered in, again with a needed change of leadership from the top down. And this new chapter for Disney acquisitions was, well, launched with Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and many others. A move that bolstered their coffers, but concurrently led to the eventual fragmentation of a once unified Disney universe. And that's just what happens when you start to push your corporate culture on one of your acquisitions. And now we're really starting to unravel how Disney's past shapes its present. But it wasn't all at once. You see, it's like a frog in a slowly heated pot that's brought to boiling. And here lies the conundrum. The dreamers at Disney just plain stopped dreaming, acquiring others to build from what was essentially just buying the dreamers at a certain point. Then the world spun into the digital era. Disney's rigid control over its mythos stifled evolution as the committees that controlled the creatives had their way. Then the extremists found their way into what was a level-headed company, introducing subject matter and neo-Marxist practices that devoured even the once successful and oftentimes bulletproof IPs. You don't have to look farther than Lucasfilm or Marvel for that. Then you have copyrights and lawsuits and a locked political narrative stifling the potential for anything, any kind of storytelling, community or individual alike. Amidst the live-action remakes and the half-assed semi-planned centennial we just went through, Disney's recent offerings have often felt like echoes of past glories, because that's what they are. A sense of staleness, lacking vigor to support moralistic worldviews as its predecessors once did, in pretty much everything they ever put together. The hero was never the bad guy, but now there are no bad guys, so the hero is obviously the good guy, even if they are only in it for themselves. Even the most recent film that was supposed to celebrate the centennial, Wish, still had that kind of a trope in it. It's almost like the people telling the stories are actually telling on themselves and revealing their incredibly isolated experience in the world, and boy, is it myopic. All of this, all under the direction and supervision of one Bob Iger. Every single one of Disney's current challenges can be blamed on Iger's adoption of radical political views and, of course, divisive doctrine. These are strong words that I'm saying here, but certainly accurate. And you can look at nothing more sinister than Disney's reimagined tomorrow nightmare to even understand that. Sadly, in its weakened state, diminished state, Disney still commands Hollywood, but it stands on shifting sands at best. I mean, we're seeing it fall apart. Even in the article by the New York Times that actually served as inspiration for this particular video, many of the current faults of Disney and its apps are pretty much laid bare. Its colossal expectations and ever-expanding demands for content is certainly drowning its creative potential. In the era of abundance, and scarcity seems to fuel creativity, especially when it comes to budgets, it's led to a rash of terrible ideas, terrible creations, terrible creatives, if you can even call them that these days, and, of course, terrible decisions. Bob Iger's acknowledgement of needing more realism in their expectations kind of trumpets a shift. Disney isn't just facing some, major financial challenges. It's grappling with its very survival, whether or not you want to believe that. A struggle to captivate across generations and cultures used to be effortless for Disney. The answer to that problem was already well outlined earlier, not just here, but in the last few months of videos that I myself have done, and many others have done, everybody in the fellowship. You have to oust the ne'er-do-wells that have hijacked the company. Find qualified and capable creatives, ones that have merit, that you actually pushed out the door or even barred from entering the space in the first place. It's all rather simple. It doesn't take a genius. At present, Disney is on an untenable tightrope, trying to keep a balance that they've all but lost, when all they have to do is back up a few steps and reclaim the solid ground. The situation is even more dire than they choose to admit, and of course Disney's proud like that, or conceited, or just silly. Pick one. But that tightrope is actually on fire in front of them. They can see it. And if they don't back away, all will be lost. Disney's legacy was built on moral family stories, passed down through beloved tales of many types. Can this once great company readapt and repurpose the messages of old? Is it even capable of capturing imaginations at all? And have they truly lost the art of storytelling? I think those are good questions. I really do. What are your answers? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya!